Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, the podcast covering all things soccer in the Queen City. So get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at feedback@cincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Now, here's your host, Nick Suberly.
Hey, what's happening, CSTers? Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, episode 130 of these bad boys we've done. Glad you're with us on this fine Monday evening. FC Cincinnati, another perfect week for them. Another 2 wins on the road, this time at Atlanta United 2 and at the Tampa Bay Rowdies. The match on Wednesday night, not as, well, I guess there's a different kind of excitement on Wednesday night with the plethora of goals that were scored against Atlanta United 2 and follow that up with the, I don't know what you call it, Saturday night at Tampa. We have a lot to digest this evening. We are opening up the Kings Hammer Hotline a little bit later on in the show because we're asking this question of you, FC Cincinnati fans. Did Blake Smith deserve to get sent off for time wasting there in the second half? He earned the first red card of the season for FC Cincinnati. So if you had Blake Smith in the first goal and first red card pool pick, you're a big winner this year. Anyway, we want to hear from you. Rob Pierce standing by ready to take your calls later on the Kings Hammer Hotline 513-399-KICK. You can also email us feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. And, of course, as always, we are on Twitter at Cincy Soccer Talk. No episode captain this week, so if you want to wear wear the armband for an episode of CST here in the future, log on to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/footgolf. All right, let's dive into it and welcome in my cast of characters for this week's episode. I'll start first and foremost with the one and only Brian Weigel. Brian, how are you, buddy?
I don't know how I get the one and only because I'm like one of two.
Just trying to make you feel better, buddy.
Yeah, it's all right. You know, really, the fact that our team came in at like, I think, -3 or -4, and I didn't contribute anything after the 6th hole. I think that's enough to at least, feel all right about my weekend.
Of course, you're talking about the 3rd annual Cincinnati Soccer Talk Foot Golf Classic, which we will be discussing a little bit later on. Brad Weigel, the other one and only Weigel, will be calling in to discuss that. We had a big weekend with sports games for kids. We'll touch on that a little bit, but I'm glad to see. Is your right leg feeling a little better?
No, not at all. It kind of, Saturday night pain was in, the right rear part of my body, and it kind of went into my hamstring yesterday, and now it's like at like my calf. I can't. I'm pointing to it right now, and nobody can see it naturally. But yeah, so it doesn't feel great, but we'll get there. We'll get there. It's a good time. Basically, it just means I need to work out more.
Well, glad to have you back this week. I'm really excited to get your take on what happened Saturday night in Tampa. You and I have kind of, how shall we say, bantered back and forth over those incidents. So we'll touch on that a little bit later on in the show. Let's also welcome back to the show Mr. PTO, free time, no responsibilities in life, the razzle-dazzle himself, Boston Brazzle. How's it going, Boston?
It's going well. Doing good, Subs. I had I'm a new uncle as of today. Had a nephew born, so I'm pretty pumped about that.
Congrats.
Been doing some UC commentary. That's going super well. The ladies are winning, and that's always awesome. But the more pressing question I have, I know the viewers can't see it because it's off camera. I'm looking at a different angle. What's with all the Twinkie boxes?
Oh, yeah. What can I say? I like my Twinkies, Boston.
Here's the thing. I was on 2 weeks ago, and I refrained from talking about the Twinkies because I saw Twinkies back. Are those the same Twinkies?
One box is the same. I'm actually using it to hold up like old envelopes that I haven't even opened yet. Yeah, I've got 2 Twinkie boxes. Well, when you're in the CST man cave as much as you are, you're kind of limited, and you just grab as much snack food as you can. And yeah, I mean, look at this belly. Of course, I eat 2 boxes of Twinkies. What can I say, Boston?
In case of nuclear apocalypse, go to house. Food for life there.
My question is, he keeps calling it the CST man cave, but there's still one thing of Man United hanging up on that wall. And after today, I just don't know how you can have that going up there, Subs.
Well, it's amazing. It's
I'm not a Spurs fan.
what happens is what Brian doesn't realize is I have the ability to kick people from the hangout, and he may or may not be on the rest of the show. In fact, I might not even let Brad call in later on because I don't want to hear about that. Anyway, glad to have you back, Boston, and thank you for pointing out my unhealthy eating habits. And last but not least, Yosef Sagai, fresh off. Well, he wasn't at the foot golf event, but he had a much more important thing to be at over the weekend. Yosef, how's it going?
It's going well, man. I had a wedding of a childhood friend out in good old Winchester, Ohio, coincidentally near the stomping grounds of Jared Handra. Doesn't seem like his scene. I have a question for you all, in fact. Which comes first? FCC's losing streak coming to an end, or those Twinkies going bad? Or winning streak, excuse me, unbeaten streak.
But the thing is,
never go bad.
But the thing is that the boxes are empty. I've already eaten them.
Then
Sorry.
they're bad. Then they're really bad.
Oh, they were great.
Whatever's happened to them was bad.
Oh, but thank you for pointing out my flaws, gentlemen. I appreciate it. No, we're glad to have you back, Yosef. Looking forward to getting your take, obviously, on what was an eventful weekend for FC Cincinnati. So let's start there. Usually we start with our best and worst of the week. So give me your best and worst, Yosef.
I'd say best was really dropping the hammer on Atlanta. Statement performance. I know we had one in Richmond, but having a real blowout is always entertaining to watch. I think a lot of fans had an opportunity to watch it on TV because it was away and it was on a night that wasn't, a weeknight. So it makes it a little bit easier for everyone who has plans on the weekends. I'd say worst of the weekend. We're gonna get into it. Just the fact that there was a lot of controversy surrounding the result on Saturday. Whichever side, I'm sure we're gonna get into who feels what about which call, but just the fact we couldn't walk away proud of a W without having all sorts of people come at us on social media and arguments and stuff. I mean, I'm proud of it, but we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, at some point, a win is a win. Doesn't matter how you get it, and a lot of people are especially Tampa fans, upset at the way it went down. And look, FC Cincinnati, we all remember a year ago, we were on the bad side of a bad night from an official, so it happens. It's kind of cyclical, but yeah, I don't understand the vitriol. Tampa had plenty of chances to score and did not. So we'll talk about that, I'm sure, a little bit later on as well. How about you, Boston? Your best and worst?
Well, best, I think, is it's obviously Atlanta, but I'm approach. I think that FC Cincinnati handled themselves well against a very young and fast and speedy team. Something I really have seen FC Cincinnati struggle with in the past. Sometimes, like when a Louisville, for example, attacks you, and I know they're a little bit more structured, but you see the guys panic, and I saw no panicking out there. I saw controlled, clear play, especially with new faces on the field, and it just seemed like they, handled the storm, especially right off the bat when they didn't. I would be surprised if that came running at me, and then immediately responded and just kept piling it on. And 2 goals wasn't enough, 3 goals wasn't enough. They fought to the end and made it a lopsided affair, and that's by far the best of the week. The worst has to be the officiating as a whole. I realize, Tampa fans are more mad than FC Cincinnati fans, but let's not pretend like we were we were not victimized here as well. We lost a player early in the second half. We struggled. We had a ton of yellow cards, as did they. The official called that game very close, and I don't think anyone was a winner when it came to the officiating.
All right. Look, it was not the official's best night. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
Oh, no, it was a great night for the official, man. He was on TV. Fun. He got a lot of FaceTime, right?
Yeah.
Shoot, man. I think I saw his face more than Fernando Adi. That might be because we didn't have a good offensive night, but hey. Yeah. Best of the week, I'm going to say, take a different light on this. If you could have seen the relationship develop between Patty Bart and Pac Nate on Instagram, Go over and check it out, man. Hysterical. Just love what we see out of these teammates. Taking a different approach here, Subs.
Well, that's how we ended the show last week.
Yeah, exactly. We did. That's right. Because actually, nobody knew we were talking about that. I lost it, and y'all had to calm me down. It's too funny. Worst of the week. I'm gonna say Georgi Ristov. I think that ball's still going into the stratosphere right now. But other than that, yeah, he won't be playing for FC Cincinnati anytime soon. So yeah, that's the worst of the week.
He could probably kick for the Bengals with that field goal he hit from inside the penalty spot.
Yeah, it's more likely.
So all right. So my best of the week. My best of the week was probably, man. It's hard to top 5 goals. It's going to be rare when you see a team score 5 goals in a match. So for me, my best is the 5-goal output against Atlanta United 2. I think the reason I'm giving it the best is because of the fact that they were all scored against Mitch Hildebrandt, and I'm not saying it because I hate Mitch Hildebrandt. I think what he's done in the club's history has been phenomenal, but I just think it was, I don't know, it felt good. I'm not gonna lie, to watch him get scored on 5 times. I don't know why. I really don't know why I felt good about that, because one of my worst of the week was seeing maybe backlash is not the word, but the people on Twitter kind of making fun or going after Mitch. And it was almost like we had forgotten what he had done for FC Cincinnati for those 2 years he was here. That was probably my worst, seeing the reaction on social media. Like the Mitch said yes stuff. I mean, granted, as soon as the first goal was going to go in, you knew that was going to be said. We all knew it. It was pretty obvious that was going to happen. But I don't know. A lot of folks weren't happy with the way FC Cincinnati fans treated Mitch on social media. I don't know. To me, I like the fact that we scored 5 goals on him. I didn't like that people went after him. I don't know. Is that weird? Do you kind of see what I'm getting at there?
I mean, I kind of forgot about Mitch, honestly. I just kept looking at Ed Hochuley's twin brother out there in his this swole T-shirt schmedium.
By the way, so I when I was down at IMG for the preseason, that gentleman reffed the Rowdies FC Cincinnati match, and he is not a very big guy, like height-wise. Now, everybody feels that way compared to me because I'm 6'3", but he is a very short guy, and then he just walks around jacked.
Yeah.
Did he have a pack of smokes in his pocket for that game too?
Could have, yes. Well, I mean, that'd been more entertaining, I'm sure, for him doing that. But in all seriousness, yeah, shout out to Mitch. He didn't have much help, and now if we want to transition to this game or now or what, but I just thought that the fact that FC Cincinnati kept throwing wave and wave and wave of attack after ATL, it made me felt great. Now, of course, looking at their record, it's like, But yeah, there wasn't much help ahead of Mitch. So trying to find any excuse I can to give him a little help. But I'll tell you what, the most impressive part besides Mr. Gunn Show was the play of Emery Welshman. I think he contributed on all 5 goals in that match.
Yep.
So yeah, to me that was awesome to see. Just a guy who has rebounded so well since his suspension, and I mean, he's looked great in his 2 games, and I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to get the call now, if Koenig's a little bit dinged up, or if he comes back in that second striker role behind Adi.
Yeah, I thought Welshman played really well on Wednesday night last week. I wanted to add, I forgot to mention this during my worst too, was listening to that dang fire alarm going off throughout that entire match on Wednesday night. Oh my gosh, I think it's still ringing. But no, I thought Welshman played well. The other thing to note from that match was that it was Pagnazzi's first start for FC Cincinnati, and I thought for not having played with this group for very long, it wasn't like you could tell he was the new guy either. We saw that with Alashi in his first start, and now the same thing with Konate.
It's going to be important too, considering the main thing is fitness. The circumstances we're in as far as Blake Smith's suspension. So I'm thinking I had a little bit of fear that he would not be available, and we discussed we're a little thin at left back. I'm sure Hoyt's flexible, but he's been playing a lot of minutes. And then Matt Boehner picked up a knock. So I'm just saying it's interesting to see what we're going to have to play with, considering and I believe it may be worth breaking down the yellow card accumulation and how that will work for Blake Smith as well when we get to that game. But he's going to be an important piece for this next stretch. I mean, obviously the season going forward, but this next stretch especially.
Boston, do you have anything else you want to add or anything to take away from that Atlanta match? Obviously, the 5 goals is fantastic. It wasn't like FC Cincinnati was tested. Although, that blast from 30 yards out that got by Spencer Ritchie was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, there's just no way to stop that goal. I mean, I'm bummed Ritchie didn't get a clean sheet because we've been doing such a great job keeping those before this little away stretch, but there's nothing he could do. The only thing I wanted to say is just how tough are these strikers making it for Alan Koch, honestly. I mean, we land Audie, $2 million player. You think, okay, he's going to be the guy, especially at home once we get towards the end of the season. Koenig and Welshman will be maybe the subs. But neither one of them want to go sit on that bench, and they are just fighting. And where we saw Audie struggle in Tampa, we saw Welshman thrive.
I'm glad you brought that up, Boston, because I kind of want to transition to the Tampa match because you're right. Audie up top was basically a non-factor Saturday night against Tampa, and that was for a combination of reasons. I think he only had 1, maybe 2 touches inside the Tampa Bay 18. That's not what you want to see from your target striker. Was that, and I'll throw this to you, Bri. I know a lot was made because it was Audie's first start. But I don't think he had the impact on the game that I think a lot of FC Cincinnati fans had hoped. Was that due to other factors like maybe the midfield struggling Saturday night against Tampa?
Yeah, I think you could say that. But as you mentioned, variety of reasons. You score early, and what has Coach Koch done in games where we scored early? We lock it down. We make sure that our 2 D mids sit right on top of our center backs and try to keep those guys out of that dangerous area. Okay. And on top of that, the weather, the slick pitch, I think you just have that huge gap between your D mids and your attacking 4 players that it's tough to get anything going. You saw Audie try to drop back. I always kind of yell at almost like what happens like when Clint Dempsey used to play for the U.S. men's national team. He would drop back, try to receive the ball. But then when he got the ball, there's nobody in front of him to go forward with. So there's a couple times early on in the half that he just really wasn't effective. I do want to give credit, though, to Tampa Bay because still home there, buddy. That I do want to give credit to Tampa because they did play very well in the midfield. I think it's kind of unfair that there's this narrative that the ref kind of gifted them a win, and they kind of took it to FC Cincinnati. I kind of like to say they played on the edge a little bit, and that kind of forced our guys to even drop that line back further and further, which didn't allow any really good chances up to Audie. So I don't want to put it all on Audie because I think there's just a lot of different instances where it just really wasn't made really a great matchup to get him the ball, especially because we were just looking to get a 1 or 3 points since we got up so early.
Well, what do you make of the notion that Audie looked disinterested Saturday night, that he just didn't look into it? I mean, is it because he wasn't getting any service? Is it because, the way things were shaping up for Tampa, outpossessing and really dominating the defensive third of FC Cincinnati? I mean, they had 16 shots by halftime, 10 of them inside the 18.
He's not going to be the guy that does the Emery Welshman type of work. He's been around quality players where he needs to fulfill his own role. He needs to be that outlet. But to say he was disinterested, the guy still dropped back to even try to get things going. So I don't think that's an accurate statement. I mean, we don't know what's going on in the minds of these players, but I didn't see that when I watched the game.
I think some FC Cincinnati fans had like a Coley flashbacks, right? Where it's why are you just standing there? But his type of play, he is a strong true forward that sits in the center, and he expects a little bit of service, and he does what he can once he gets the ball. And yes, Brian's right. He was moving a little bit, but not as much as we're used to seeing. And I think that because of the rain, because of the weather, because of the tactics Tampa employed, Audie probably just wasn't the best to roll out for that game, just due to the situation. And it's too late to know that once the game starts.
Well, okay, but here's the thing: in those matches, if we find ourselves on the back foot, we do want that outlet to clear the ball to, and we just were having issues even just doing that in this game with how hard they were pressing. And we can talk about the fouls in a little bit, but I felt, as I said, that Tampa Bay kind of played on an edge, and they just came into every challenge and just beat the crud out of our midfielders. I don't know if that was a tactic that the coach employed to kind of put us off base, but honestly, I felt it kind of worked against Tampa Bay later on with all the yellow cards and everything. But, in those instances, I thought Coach Koch did really well, realizing that, it isn't the best game. He brought the sub in and to try to help alleviate some pressure. But I really just don't feel like that's on Audie. Why we weren't getting things going on in the middle.
Let's go to the Kings Hammer Hotline because Yersky wants to talk about the weather. Yersky, welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. How are you, bud?
What's up, fellas? I just wanted to talk a little bit about the pooling and that we saw. And I'm not really going to go into whether the big elephant in the room, but my question is with actual grass and in the future stadium that we have, how realistic is that a problem that, that we could see that in an actual grass stadium?
All right, so Yersky, I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying. It's like you're underwater yourself. Are you down in Tampa during the rainstorm?
No, better?
No. It's like we might have to drop you and give us a ring back.
All right.
Or maybe
cool.
we'll answer your question about I kind of get the idea of what you're talking about. We appreciate the call, Yersky. Obviously weather conditions play a little bit of a factor when you've got a team like FC Cincinnati that likes to play possession-based. Having to sit for an hour, I'm sure, wasn't easy either. But obviously the weather played a little bit of a factor.
Yeah, and he mentioned moving to Major League Soccer and playing on grass fields where, pooling may be more of an issue. I just don't see us playing in too many places like Tampa Bay, the Lightning capital of the world. I mean, every time I go there, it seems like my plane gets delayed or lightning strikes or bad weather. There will be bad weather, of course, in Major League Soccer, and there will be bad games. And I think, every team has to handle that adversity when they hit it.
Cool.
Yosef's sitting there quietly like he has nothing to add regarding the weather.
No, hey, I thought it would be a quick. They covered it, man. It's Ohio. Think about how many rain delays we've had this year. I don't think it's a huge deal, honestly. I'd trade it any single day of the week for grass rather than turf. I'm not the biggest grass snob out there, but I think the trade-off more than takes care of itself to have a grass field to train on, or not train on even in warm-ups, or have in, I know they won't be training there, but have for match day.
Yeah. So about the weather, and I kind of want to talk about the game and how tactics might have been employed. That pressure that you saw Tampa do on that rough surface was designed to force FC Cincinnati players into making mistakes, right? I mean, that's the way I take it. And the fact that FC Cincinnati really didn't have too many glaring mistakes in those instances, I felt pretty positive. I don't know about you guys. That this is not a game where I think we win, and with all these different conditions, different scenarios, I don't think we win until we have this quality group of guys. Especially like I know people are dogging a little bit and Alashe a little bit, but those are two guys that really kind of locked everything down. They slowed play down, made sure we were in control, and I appreciated that pretty well.
I saw nothing that we could get a goal from run of play in 90 minutes. I think let's just pretend that game was nice and calm and there wasn't a ton of penalties. FC Cincinnati would have had their defensive shell. I can't see any way that match doesn't finish 0-0 if we have 11 men, and so do they.
Tampa tried to do the same exact tactics versus Pittsburgh last Wednesday, just keeping their defensive shell and countering if they had any chances. So, I mean, I think that's a good tactic to have. I mean, there's so many variables that could have gone wrong and so many ways this game could have unraveled, but they didn't. And I'd rather have our FC Cincinnati guys sit back, pick their chances if they can get them. And I mean, I personally, I know we don't love that we didn't have too many, as you said, in the run of play chances, but I'm still pretty positive on this whole match.
And it's a quality side. I don't think we're really, that's taken into account. Sure, we see that it's not only 3 games in 8 days, but the actual just talent on paper for that team is very, very impressive. And I think holding and hunkering while maybe going into it in a paper bag, it's not the best strategy, or it can be, you can try to tear it down, considering all the outside factors, considering the lack of rest, and really considering a point would have been okay in that circumstance, considering our pass run and play. I'm okay with it.
So let's talk a little bit about what happened. We know that Blake Smith got sent off. We're not going to discuss whether or not it was the correct call. We're going to say that for a little bit later on in the show. But he was sent off with about 30 minutes left in the match. And when you consider the fact that FC Cincinnati, even just by halftime, had already faced 16 shots, 10 in their own penalty box, that's enough for some whole entire matches this year for FC Cincinnati of opponents they have faced, right? So they are facing a barrage of shots. Somehow they're not going in, and then Blake Smith gets sent off. And at what point are you thinking to yourself, nah, I think this might not be our night?
I honestly can say I thought that at that very moment. I saw Alan Koch's strategy, especially after the Jimmy PK, was to hold the defensive line. We've done a great job of keeping clean sheets this season. We've got one of the best defenses in the league. So, it's not a bad strategy when you're up 1-0 in the weather. But I was worried. FC Cincinnati has not played with 10 men at all this season. Not something they were expecting. Not something Blake Smith was expecting. And so, and he's one of your defenders. So it's a tough go, I think. And of course they did score run of play. I think that we were all right to be scared.
Yeah, Poku equalized for the Rowdies in the 75th minute. And at that point, with 15 minutes left, the team that almost kind of looked like they were running on fumes, Bry, somehow you're thinking to yourself, okay, if this unbeaten run is going to continue, something miraculous is going to have to happen. And, well, I think the miracle we were expecting was not what we saw.
Well, this is why you bring in guys like Konate to when they have their one chance. And that's the thing with FC Cincinnati this whole year. I've said this on the show time and time again. There's moments of individual brilliance when things aren't going our way, and we have guys step up like that. And Pa, he took advantage. He beat a guy. He beat
Gorski.
Yeah, Gorski. Thank you very much. He beat Hunter Gorski, and he made their center back Diakite, make a tough decision. And that's all we can ask for out of these guys. And I feel confident through this whole season. We've seen these guys, one player step up, whether it's the free kick from Ledesma that deflects off a guy and goes in the net, or versus Penn FC. I mean, we've had these instances all year where our guys have stepped up, and until they prove us wrong, maybe that one time in the Nashville game, I mean, I feel really confident that we're able to go out and get these results right now.
So in the end, FC Cincinnati, they get the late penalty kick. Manu Ledesma converts both. I think we were trying to research before the match. I think this might be the first time in the club's history that they had scored 2 penalty kicks in the same match. I don't know if we ever confirmed that, Bri, but
Aiden Quinn didn't do it.
Man,
he went there. Oh man. So in the end, Ledesma now he has 13 goals on the season. Converted both of his spot kicks. Job well done there, Manu. And FC Cincinnati, they survive a late Georgi Ristov attempt inside the box. Should have probably scored there. In the end, FC Cincinnati escapes. I call Al Leng the House of Horrors because they had never won there. They had never scored a goal there.
Scored there, yeah. Never scored.
Yeah. So the fact they get out of there with 3 points on a night where they didn't look their best, got some help, That's a sign of a good team. They fought through it, and hey, they got 3 more points. Continue to lead in the Eastern Conference. So, look, it wasn't pretty. They got the job done. We're gonna break from the recap a little bit because I want to talk about what happened over the weekend with the Foot Golf Classic. So we're going to be opening up the phone lines. The Kings Hammer Hotline is open. We're going to be talking about the Blake Smith red card and, of course, the late penalty, whether or not we feel it was a penalty. So get in touch, 513-399-KICK. Before we talk about the Cincinnati Soccer Talk Foot Golf Classic, it's that time of the show where we give a big shout-out and thank you to our tremendous supporters. First, Tim Bronson with Kings Hammer. Thank you so much. Matt Adamchick, Mama Subes, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Mike Hudson, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Jesse King, Teresa Everidge, Matt Nimmolt. Liverpool is superior to Man U, especially today after that god-awful performance. And last but not least, Mama Sagai, Segan Sagai. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to learn how you can support the show, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. That is where you can find out how you can wear an armband for an episode of CST or, of course, get a shout-out. Next week is the first week of the month, which means we will be shouting out every single Cincinnati Soccer Talk supporter. So make sure you go get signed up for that. All right, let's transition now and talk a little bit about the weekend events there at Woodland Golf Course for the 3rd annual Cincinnati Soccer Talk Foot Golf Classic. So we welcome in the other half, the other Weigel twin to the show. He's calling in, which is, I guess, a little new to us, but Brad Weigel joins us on the Kings Hammer Hotline. Brad, how are you, buddy?
You know where, you guys, I wish I was with you right now. Sorry, I just turned my Facebook on. I wish I was with you guys right now, but, talking about questionable results from the weekend. But where there wasn't a questionable result, Soups?
At Old Trafford today, Bradley.
At Old Trafford, 3-0 Spurs. How about that? Do you enjoy the game?
Well, the good news is, we raised a lot of money for sports games for kids over the weekend. And let's talk about that, the 3rd annual Cincinnati Soccer Talk Foot Golf Classic. You do a really good job of that, Brad, each and every year. So fill folks in on how it was a record-breaking year for the event.
First of all, thank you to everybody who showed up. We were a little scared in the morning with some threatening weather, but it turned out all right. It turned out to be a beautiful day to support Cincinnati Soccer Talk and sports games for kids. We had 23 teams, which is a record, 6 more we had than last year. And we also had 93 attendees, which helped us raise over $2,300. So that takes Cincinnati Soccer Talk's donations to sports games for kids, affiliated donations. So right around $8,000 since we started this thing. So it's just exciting to be a part of it and helping out all the young kids from area children's homes, children's hospitals. Just a great weekend.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, you total it up over 3 years. That's pretty remarkable for just something we kind of threw together. I wouldn't say last minute back 3 years ago, but it's incredible to see where this event has come since we started it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, it's just great. We started this thing 3 years ago just to get supporters together. FC Cincinnati was still new. A lot of supporters didn't know each other, and it's just morphed into just a great event. We're all coming together to help out these kids, and we enjoy, community with one another. It's just a great time, and we look forward to making it bigger and better next year.
So let's talk a little bit about who were our winners for this weekend. I know big bragging rights for whoever wins the Foot Golf Classic, but it sounds like we have a repeat champion.
We did. The Meerhot team won again. We got Nick and Nate Meerhot, Eddie Zavala, and Cody Burton. They came in 1 stroke ahead of really a tie, but second and third place. We had second place was our boy Yersky, who stacked his team with Dutch Lions general manager Brandon Ponchak and head coach and former FC Cincinnati midfielder / defender Paul Nicholson. And then we had a couple supporter group guys, Josh Traeger, Liam Malone, Pat Benson, and James Weaver coming third. But it was just a cool event out there. I think everybody had fun. And now these guys got to go for the three-peat. I think our Ben Knapp might have to bring his A squad to the table, see if he can knock them off. Because if you remember right, Ben won our first year. So.
That's right. So let's talk. Obviously, we know about the festivities there at the golf course, but how much fun was it to go head over to was it Westside Brewing and check out obviously the Tampa match? You had a chance to raffle off some cool prizes. What were some of the cool prizes?
I got to give a shout out real quick to Matt Emholt. He did an awesome job of helping us out with a couple baskets, especially an RC boat, which actually my little nephew walked away with. So he was over here this weekend playing with it in the pool. But you had assigned a soccer ball. I think Brian donated a really cool Fernando Adi fat head. We had altogether like 31 baskets, and the basket raffle itself raised up to like about $800 this year. And all that is just going straight to sports games for kids.
That's awesome. Did we have a little Ohio State Bengals connection there? Did something happen with that?
Not quite this year.
Oh.
But Sam Hubbard let us know that he wants to get involved next year.
Well, what happened? Boston,
so
I
saw something coming.
Boston's first of all, Boston threw me under the bus with my Twinkie boxes. He was all talk with his Sam Hubbard stuff now. What happened?
Unfortunately, his family they were actually on their way to bring some gear, and it didn't work out. I'll get into the details with you later, but yes, they are planning something.
Well, dang.
They're going to go ahead and make it up to us, they said, so expect a little bit of news on that coming soon.
Bengals.
Typical.
They heard you were a Michigan fan, Nick, so they wouldn't donate anything. That's the real story.
Well, I'm not a Michigan fan.
Your boy is. You let that happen.
My son, yes. But okay. Anyway, it's like pick on Subs night. My goodness. All right. So we raised a lot of money for sports games for kids. We want to just give a big shout out and thanks to all the sponsors. Big thank you to Joseph Auto Group because they were our presenting sponsor this year, Brad. But who else helped us out?
We had Sarah Technologies, we had Bucketheads and Ryan House, and I want to give a special shout out, like you said, the Joseph Auto Group. They've been with us for all 3 years, as well as 513 Shirts / Queen City Sportswear and the Queen City firm as well. They've been with us from the very beginning as partners, so I can't thank them enough. And also I want to thank our volunteers. Trisha was a beast taking care of that basket raffle. Rob was out there taking photos, which we should have up for everybody to view next couple of days. Thank you to my wife Ashley for handling the food, and then a special thanks goes out to Mama and Papa Subs. Subs couldn't be there, so they took care of you, buddy. They worked their tails off for you. Phil was a lifesaver getting me some tables scrambling at the end of the night. So we just can't thank all them enough, and again everybody who came out and supported.
Good stuff, Brad, as always. I can't thank you enough for the amount of work you put into this thing. You make it such a good event. It really is top notch, and the reason why he's not on the show tonight is because he deserves a break because he did a great job. Brad, thank you again. Congrats to your Spurs. Now, hopefully, you go actually win a trophy this year. Okay?
Oh, you dirty.
See you, Brad.
See, man. Thanks.
That's Brad Weigel here on the Kings Hammer Hotline. Now, go ahead, Brian.
Maybe he could play if you came down here and came to the event.
Hey, it's called being a parent, as you're fully aware, Bri. I spent the weekend up in that great state of Michigan for a soccer tournament. We were in Detroit, just north of Detroit. By the way, the tournament we were at was we played in an indoor facility that, I kid you not, had 6 11v11 fields, all indoors. Like, it was top notch. Every field house, it was like a field house. Every one had bleachers that could pull out like a freaking basketball arena. Upstairs had a bar that if you sat up there, you can actually see every field from up. It was wow. Really, really cool. Anyway, that's just my take for the weekend. That, and I got to have DeBello subs, which I'm a big fan of.
Are you saying that's Detroit's soccer-specific stadium? Are you leaking some news? Apparently,
no.
Oh, well, you're talking it up like it was.
I wore some FCC gear, fully expecting to get heckled from some Detroit City fans, and it did not happen. So
there really aren't many. They just like to think there is.
Oh, got him. Well done.
Picking on everybody today.
Yeah, it's just one of those nights. So let's transition now, shall we? Because I think this is kind of the topic we've we've been really waiting to discuss ever since Saturday night's match wrapped up, discussing the red card situation. Blake Smith in the 60, it was in the 60th minute, somewhere in the 60th minute range, is sent off for what the referee deemed to be time wasting. So we're asking you, there's a bunch of you watching live right now. I can see it on YouTube, see it on Facebook, on Periscope and Twitch. This is your chance to chime in and give us a ring on the Kings Hammer Hotline, 513-399-KICK. Did Blake Smith deserve the yellow card, the second yellow card, which ultimately sent him off? Brian, I know how you feel. You were not a fan of the sending off. You thought the official was, I don't know, didn't make the best decision. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, you can tell me what you think first.
I just think, look, I think that Blake Smith was riding a fine line there. Now, a lot of folks probably didn't see this. I happened to just see it on Twitter. It wasn't mentioned, I don't think, during the broadcast, but I just happened to glance to see that the Rowdies had tweeted it out that Evan Newton had already been warned for time wasting there in the 58th or 57th minute or whatever. So the warning, the precedent was kind of already set that, hey, look, I'm not going to let you just sit here on the ball and waste time. Blake Smith at this point is already on a yellow card for a dangerous tackle at midfield. And so I think, maybe he's thinking he's not trying to waste time. He went into it thinking he was just going to do his normal throw-in routine. From the way it looked on TV and the way watching it live, you're thinking to yourself, dude, throw the ball in. You're on a yellow. Let's go. What are you risking? You're putting your future in this match in the hands of pro referees, which we know in the USL aren't great. They are prone to making decisions like this. So to me, I thought it could have been avoided if he had just gotten the ball, throw it in. Like it's too risky with USL pro referees. It just is.
Okay, so in the FIFA rules of the game, there's a 6-second handing rule for keepers while the ball's in play. Okay, so if you want to look at that as, what, Blake, you have 6 seconds to throw the ball in. Anything double that is risky. Then that's a fine argument to have. Okay, I think that's fair. My issue is there's 30 seconds to go in the game.
30 minutes.
Thank you. 30 minutes to go left in the game. Yeah, that would have been really crappy. 30 minutes to go in the game, okay? And as a referee, use your freaking head. There's common sense. And again, pro refs, I know. But you're willfully changing the game when you could have just added 20 seconds onto your stopwatch. Talk to the guy, talk to Blake in stoppage time or in a stoppage of play and say, next time you do that, you're gone. Okay. Is that too reasonable of a question to ask? Yes, I know you're putting your thoughts and your prayers into the refs of not the highest caliber in some instances, especially this ref has been prone to showing yellow cards. I just think that this ref really just literally had the opportunity to take a sensible approach versus I'm going to change the game because I don't like what you're doing. Like that's literally, it seemed almost like a personal decision there. And there's even another instance where, okay, maybe you're the ref and you're looking at this, okay, I think this one might be a good card to send a message. But the guy's on yellow already. You got to know that in the back of your mind as a ref. You need to know that player's on the yellow. If you don't know that, you shouldn't be on the field. And I'm sure there's going to be some evaluation. So I'm a little bit upset by this. I don't think FC Cincinnati can appeal it. There's so many different rule changes in the USL. I think when there's an instance where you could have just made a sensible approach, added clock on versus stopping a game and delaying it for more than, how many minutes did this guy delay the damn game? 10 minutes? So I don't know. I just think it was reckless on the referee's part, and I don't think that guy should be getting many more games the rest of the year. But watch the pro referee will schedule him in the biggest event in 2 weeks versus Louisville.
Look, I agree with you, Brian, 100% on your take that it's a dumb card to give out 30 minutes remaining. I agree with that sentiment 100%. I really do. But I just think that the fact that he had already warned Evan Newton about time wasting, just the mere appearance of you time wasting, especially on a yellow card, you got to.
But it was okay. Everybody, let's take the whole context on this play. Okay, the ball was on the opposite side of the pitch, near the half line, and the ball was crossed completely to the opposite corner of the pitch. Blake Smith was in the middle of the penalty box, had to run all the way to the end line. It took him 9 seconds. Okay, if you want to yell at a guy, 65 minutes, 75 or 80-degree temperatures, if you want to yell at him for running over there and then taking 10 to 15 seconds to set up his team, I think there's some context that the ref just failed miserably on.
And it wasn't even the main ref, right? It's the side official that looks like he's the one that calls this play. I mean, the head official obviously blows his whistle and issues the card, but the side one's the one yapping the whole time.
Yeah, we'll call him Point Break for this example. He's just yelling from behind the dude. Blake's trying to figure out what's going on ahead of him. This guy's yapping and I don't know. I'm a little bit bitter. I think this whole situation could have been handled better, but you gosh darn know that it's not going to happen again for FC Cincinnati. So I guess it's a learning lesson, but it's just sad.
Yeah, this is why I love FC Cincinnati fans, though, because you could go on Reddit today and there was a full-on breakdown of this play. Like they took it out, they took the clip from ESPN, uploaded it. They mark it all. So right, the ball goes out at 60 minutes and 50 seconds. The ref blows his whistle at 61 minutes and 15 seconds. So that puts about 25 seconds, which is pretty quick for a red card. If you go back and watch some other throw-ins this season, you'll see many around the 20-25 second mark.
And I think in a way, there's a lot of times we will, as fans, complain like the situationally, this should have been a card, but it was early. This should have been a PK, but it was early. And I'm not talking about this game. I'm talking in a greater sense. But you have to be cognizant of the fact that there's 30 minutes to go, and I wish that we could get in Blake Smith's head and truly know if he was trying to avoid more time on the pitch for Tampa Bay, like deep down in his heart. But what is the detriment to the game that he's really causing? I agree. Warn him and say, hey, you're out of here. But you're out of here if this happens again. But considering all circumstances, are you going to really change a game of this level of importance on something as trivial as that? And really, he's not. I don't think there was malice in it. That's my point, I guess. Is
warning Evan Newton for time wasting a warning to the entire team overall? Like, I'm just asking. Like, was Audie supposed to know that there was a time wasting?
In the rules of FIFA's rules of the game, that player is supposed to be warned. Now, Point Break standing behind him, I don't know. That might have been the warning, but oh well.
Yeah, look, at the time, I just think that, yes, it could have been avoided. I think from a going forward standpoint, you got to know, and we saw this a year ago with the official in what was it, the Rochester game, Mr. Gonzalez Guido had a bad night. This official, obviously Tampa Bay fans think he had a bad night as well. I just think it could have been avoided. If you're on a yellow, get the ball in. Don't even, just the mere appearance of wasting time, to me, I think that's what sent the ref off. He probably was just trying to warn Blake Smith with a yellow card for time wasting because he already gave Newton one. He must have forgotten that Blake Smith had just gotten a yellow card. And maybe that's, at that point he's shown the yellow card. He's got to give the red for it being a second yellow card. I don't know. I agree 100% on common sense here, Brian. I'm with you 100%. I just think it could have been avoided if, Blake had just thrown the ball in 4 or 5 seconds quicker,
Yeah. Let's move on to Diakite.
All right.
We beat this horse.
Yeah. So, look, obviously late in the match, Pape Diakite for Tampa Bay goes to ground in the penalty area. If you watch the replay in slow motion, you can tell he definitely loses his footing. in what appears to be a puddle there inside the Lang pitch. Goes down. Pakanate, who had just done a great job of beating Hunter Gorski, is coming onto him with the ball. Diakite loses his footing, sticks 2 feet out, and Kanate falls over him. There was contact, albeit minimal contact, but there was contact. The debate here amongst CST was whether or not that should have been given as a penalty. You and I, Bri, of course, differ here again. So I'll lead it off. I didn't think it was a penalty watching it live. Even in slow motion, I think it's a soft, harsh penalty. Am I thankful that it happened? 100%. But if it was if it was flipped around and that was Patty Barrett called for that, I'd be so angry right now.
Okay, so let's look at the base rule of the game from FIFA. A player kicks or attempts to kick another player. A player trips or attempts to trip another player. A ref can assess a foul. If it's careless, you don't have to give him a yellow. If it's reckless, you absolutely give him a yellow. I would have thought this was kind of careless, but Diakite, when he gets on the ground, he opens his legs in like a V, almost like a scissor motion, and that, due to the letter of the law, is an attempt to kick or an attempt to trip. Doesn't matter how, Kanate falls, but I think just due to the letter of the law, and I'm sure there's 100,000 refs out there that can prove me right or wrong. I just think the way I'm reading the rule, that's a penalty.
Okay. So let's play devil's advocate here, because a minute ago you were talking about common sense.
There's
right?
no law in terms of time written. That's why I said the 6-second rule. I made that point. I did my homework, Subs.
Sure, but common sense here. The ref has to have seen that he lost his footing, that the intent was not to even play the ball. I think he just slipped. So that's why I disagree with the penalty call there. Don't get me wrong, FC Cincinnati fans. I'm super thankful that it was called. I'm glad Ledesma scored a penalty kick. But even at the time watching it live, I thought it was soft. I know there are quite a few FC Cincinnati fans, a couple even in the media thought it was soft. Boston, is it a penalty?
Boy, I think it's soft. I'm contradicted. We had a photographer right there on the sidelines, Mr. Cincy Pixels himself, but he said it was a penalty. He's standing right there. He said he was even closer than the official. I think what the official saw was honestly studs up. You know, the way he fell, you have studs pointing in the air, and I honestly feel bad for Tampa, because you're right. If that was our player, I would be screaming. He fell. He can't control where his studs go. He can't control that his legs split open in a V. Like he slipped and fell, and our player could have fallen. He was trudging. I mean, you saw him splashing as he walked through that same area, or I guess ran through that same area. It's a tough call.
Here's the thing, though.
And
intent has zero to do with if a foul's called. It's the punishment of the foul.
I get it, but come on, if you're an official and it's the end of the game, do you want to be the one that decides that match? Because that's what it came down to.
Now, I got to go back, and I'm sorry to cut you off here, Boston.
Oh, you're fine.
Did Diakite, did he even touch the ball? Did he win the ball initially?
At best, 50-50.
Okay, so let's play. If that is in the field of play and not in the penalty area, is the ref blowing his whistle there?
Yeah, 100%. I think it makes it easier.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, you have to say whatever the intent, whatever, he impeded a clear chance at goal. Okay. That's the point of the PK. And the second thing that's kind of bugged me about this, and no one on the show said it, but they called it a dive, which if Paul wanted to draw contact from that, he could have. He was trying to keep it safe for both players, I think, and avoid, like any human should, contact. But that was a chance at goal. It's unfortunate that it was brought about and it was interrupted the way it was. Unfortunate in the sense of the circumstances, but not for FCC. And I agree, I would be pissed if it was the shoe on the other foot, but you can't. I think that's still something we want to see rewarded, because I mean that changed the game. And let's not forget, Tampa had their chances. So at some point they got to take ownership of the fact that you had a clear chance to win this game or at least draw. Some things didn't go your way. That's fine, but it's not fully on this PK call.
I agree with you on that. I think it wasn't all. I do 100% agree that they didn't lose just because of this PK call. I mean, Ristov should have at least tied it. But to a point, Subs, you coached a lot of youth, right? Coached a lot of kids?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. What's the first thing you teach them defensively?
Don't leave your feet. Yeah.
Don't leave your feet. The guy broke the cardinal rule here. So.
Yeah, I thought it was harsh on Tampa Bay. Super thankful. I can't stress that enough. Super thankful. But just I thought it was harsh, and I don't know. On a night where FC Cincinnati didn't play their best, conceded a lot of shots, with a lot of them being inside their own 18, I just felt like they were very fortunate. Maybe fortunate's the right word, the right adjective, right, Bri?
There you go.
So yeah, let's. We're hoping that it looks like we're having some issues with the Kings Hammer Hotline. Continue to try to call in. It looks like we got that resolved. So make sure you give us a ring, 513-399-KICK. This is your chance to have your say about the Blake Smith yellow card, second yellow card, the
player moves.
The player moves. Yeah, we could talk a little bit about that while we wait for that to get sorted out. Obviously, we know Will Seymour loaned out to Reno. He'll be heading out that way. And then Lance Lang out to San Antonio. So this is a couple of guys who we know wanted to play a little bit more this year. Lance Lang got some minutes early on. And then I'm just not sure what happened with Lance Lang, guys. I think he was somebody we were all pumped about joining the squad. Had a fantastic goal in the preseason against, I believe it was Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville.
There at Gettler Stadium. And then it just never seemed to materialize for FC Cincinnati. I know, Boston, you were a big fan of his.
Huge. And in fact, I got almost like this rejuvenation of hope when we go to Pittsburgh for the Open Cup game. And I was there in the stands, and I saw him roll out, and I was like, yes, finally a little bit more of Lance Lang, because he started the season, but he quickly lost his spot after he got injured, and he scores that free kick. It was beautiful. There was a game we won 3-1. He was a big part of it, and I thought he did a great job, and I thought he would work his way back into the lineup from there, but it's just so crowded. Like, where do you put Lance Lang? I think we saw Allen try to put him back in defense, but he belongs in a goal-scoring position, and I just don't know if left back, is the right place for him, and we already have that covered. So I think it's just a embarrassment of riches. Honestly, Lance Lang rolled out for San Antonio the last night. He came in as a sub. He hardly knows the players, and he almost scored twice. He had two great shots.
Yeah,
Boston, you know why Lance Lang wasn't successful. You know why. You put the Kadeem Dakers curse on him.
I forgot about that.
Everybody I love has to fail. Is that your plan? Is that exactly why every time I pick FC Cincinnati to lose, they win?
Yeah, so
I think we found the trick.
Yeah, I go back to IMG preseason. Lance Lang, in that game against the Rowdies, had the lone assist to Garrett Halfhill. So both of those guys not with the club anymore. So yeah, I was a little disappointed. I really enjoyed getting a chance to meet Lance down in Tampa. Another gentleman I was really excited to get to know was Will Seymour. It's hard to see another United supporter go. And so best of luck to Will out in Reno. This was a crowded midfield, Bri, and it was always going to be tough to crack this lineup, but he's going to get a chance out in Reno.
Yeah, seemed like a nice dude. Connected with us a little bit at the FC or with CST. But yeah, there's no way he's going to get in any playing time with Alashe in there. I think the biggest contribution he had this year was the Open Cup run, and then coming in and being a stud in that indie game, helping lock that game down. So props to that. He also leaked the Nazmi Al-Badawi signing, so that was cool too. But yeah, no, I'm sad to see both Lance and Seymour go. Lance, as I said, preseason MVP. But I think the club did right by them. Yeah, I know there's some rumors that they're training by themselves. It's tough. But FC Cincinnati could have sat them on the bench versus finding ways to get them out and attempting to get them playing time. So props to the guys for being professional, as well as props to the club for trying to do right by them as best they could.
Yes, I agree with that statement. Let's go to the Kings Hammer Hotline, and let's welcome Chris to the show. Chris, welcome to CST. How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Not much, man. You want to talk a little bit about the Blake Smith red card, huh?
Well, I think we've already probably put this horse well underground.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when you put that all together, I mean, the USL hates us, right, because we somewhat use them to go major league, and a red card in the 62nd minute for delay is minor league.
Yeah.
The very things that that they want to be is the reason why we're moving on. That was an ugly, messy match weather-wise, reffing-wise, and so then you have Karate's that PK there at the end, and that's just an ugly soccer deal, right? It's just an ugly call, and Tampa had all of their chances, and they didn't capitalize. I mean, they had the chance at the end. That should have been a draw.
Yeah.
Who was the dude in the end there who completely skied that ball?
Yeah, Georgie Ristov.
With a minute left. Right. I mean, it was a bunny there at the end, and he skied. That's a minor league play, and we happen to be going to other places, and that's why everybody hates us. And well, that's okay.
I like what you did there, Chris. So for you, was that a penalty at the end?
Yeah, it is. I mean, when I saw it, I was just like, oh, thank God we just got a break there. But then when I actually saw all the breakdowns, the past couple of days, those are 2 feet studs up in the box, whether he slipped or whatever. I mean, he came off of his feet,
yeah,
and that's kind of how it goes. But again, when I watched it in real time, I was like, oh, thank God we got that poor call, and I'm glad we're going to move on with 3 points.
Yeah, I agree. I was super thankful that it happened. That it meant that FC Cincinnati got the win. Look, I see both sides. I see that he went up with 2 feet, and that's the risk you take when you go down in the box. So I guess I'm slowly turning towards the it was a penalty when I look at it that way.
The one thing, Subs, I wanted to touch on.
It's a crappy pitch.
I think that Chris made up a pretty interesting point with just kind of how everything was handled a little bit here, and I kind of look at it in terms of. Look how FC Cincinnati, their players and everybody handled the situation. Look how the discipline or lack thereof on the pitch in Tampa, and that hurt the Rowdies throughout the entire night with all the fouls, the chances, they just really didn't take well. But then also like on social media, I mean, I think a lot of this situation was inflamed by the Tampa Bay Twitter feed, several members of the professional staff, like calling our players divers and really taking some really unique approaches to this whole thing. And again, that's something that I pride ourselves that our club acts a little bit more professional than theirs did in the situation.
Too, if you think about it, let's look at it from this standpoint. Tampa is not where they wanted to be. They had big expectations going into this year, and obviously they fired a coach midway through the year, lost some guys due to either retirement or just things not going their way. So, Chris, appreciate the call, man. Don't be a stranger.
Yeah, bud. Yeah, appreciate you guys.
Thank you. That's Chris on the Kings Hammer Hotline. Hey, if you want to chime in, 513-399-KICK. That's the line to call in. Have your say tonight here on the show. Let's talk a little bit about what the yellow card actually means for Blake Smith, because there's some debate about whether or not what is this suspension going to be. He was on 4 yellow cards as it was going into that match. Had he not been sent off for the second yellow card, he would have had 5, which meant he would have missed the next match anyway due to yellow card accumulation. Now he's going to miss the next match due to the red card, but correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, it's going to revert back to a 4th yellow, so he's still in jeopardy of missing another match due to accumulation?
Yeah, I'm almost positive Boston might know that, finding some different things on Reddit and all that stuff too, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Didn't we have something like that happen with Jibby or Kenny last year?
Yeah, we did. You're 100% right, Brian. The 2 yellows turn into a red like they would in a normal game anyway. So if you were getting your first 2 fouls and they both were yellows and that becomes a red card. You actually don't have any yellows on the season, which is why Jibby had so few yellows and so many reds. But part of the reason. But let's just say that so Blake Smith will serve a red card suspension, and then he still has the 4 yellows he had before.
But we have the Swedish left back that we didn't have before, so I'm feeling all right.
The problem is, and I think this is where the Matt Boehner injury comes into play, because if he's going to be missing significant time, Hoyt's going to have to play a lot of minutes, and then, God forbid, what if something happens to Hoyt? Now you're down to just one outside back at the moment in Pacanate. Is that math? Is my math really correct there, guys? If Blake Smith has to serve another suspension, is what I'm saying.
Well, I guess so. I mean, they all said that Patty Barrett, Michael LaHood, they played defense or fullback before, so we'll see. Hopefully, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, we've got some big matchups coming up over the next few weeks. Pittsburgh, obviously, this upcoming weekend. We've got Louisville around the corner. Another match against Pittsburgh. Another match against Nashville. So this is, it's going to be an interesting 8-game stretch. Sitting on 4 yellow cards, Blake is going to have to be playing it smart. Maybe you pick up that 5th yellow before that Penn FC match or that Richmond match, if you know what I'm saying. This is your chance to chime in. We've got a few more minutes left here in the show. 513-399-KICK, 513-399-KICK. So I think we were all kind of in agreement. And I'll be honest, I've completely flipped. I'm in the designation now that it was a penalty. So congratulations, Brian. You won that one. But let's talk a little bit about Pittsburgh. You've got March to Match Day coming up this week. It's going to be a big game there at Nippert Stadium. One of 3 remaining on the home schedule for this year. But Pittsburgh, they're not playing their best soccer right now.
Yeah. They were second for the longest time. Now they've kind of fallen back into third, or I guess tied for second or third place, whatever you call it on the USL stats sheet. But they've had issues closing out games. They've had issues scoring as of late. So we'll see what happens. They're always going to be a tough side to beat. So we have that for them, and I'm sure they're going to be jacked up to play in Nippert like they were earlier in the year. We're going to speak to Kevin Sparks of the Mongols for March to Match Day. So we're excited to talk to them again about it, and hopefully we don't get them too upset going forward that they won't talk to us again. But I'm real excited to take this rivalry up to the next level. I really hope for another exciting game here. Yeah, hopefully a big crowd. The UC students are back. I know we always talk that they don't influence attendance, but maybe we could get over a pretty good 30,000 threshold if we get some friends out there from UC.
Yeah, Boston, you're kind of our, I don't know if we want to call you our attendance expert, but you seem to have all the ins and outs. What's it looking like for this weekend?
I think you can call it a problem. I mean, if you load up the attendance or the stadium graphic and then check it out once every couple of days, you have a problem. But yes, it was looking kind of normal, like a normal midsummer week when I pulled it up on Sunday. However, I think with all the hype that's going on, it'll fill up a little bit more than normal. I'm with Brian. I would love to see a big, especially as we enter these last 3 games, it's time to start filling this stadium. I know we probably will break a record for the last game like we do every season, but it'd be nice to get close or break it even before that last game.
I mean, I just want some Bengals players bringing out the honorary captains again. Oh my God, I actually love that. That was so cool seeing Dunlap.
Don't tell Mike Sparks about it. He absolutely hated that.
Oh, really? Oh, that was cool. My favorite story that got no reads. I'm sorry. The story that got no reads is if you could put Cincinnati Bengals players is a starting 11 on a soccer pitch, 20 reads. But yeah, I'm joking. It's more than that, but I digress.
I'm trying to think. So the only ones left from that day that were there, Giovanni is still around. Obviously, Pecco's gone. Adam Jones is gone. And I guess Dunlap, he's still around. So I guess half that group that was there that day. That was fun. A little crossover with the Bengals. Those were the days. Some other news and notes, I guess. It was announced today that former FC Cincinnati head coach John Harkes now has a new head coaching gig down at in Greenville. And is that the PDO?
No, that'll be USL D3.
Okay. See, I don't know lower division soccer like y'all do. Brian's laughing at me over there.
Yes.
Is this just like the end of last week? Yeah, you're going to be cracking up. So
I'm just trying to figure out if you're doing that intentionally or not.
It's a brand new expansion team, so it'll almost be like exactly what he did here, but on a smaller scale. Although we were D3 at the time, so maybe not.
I don't know what teams are D3.
I think that club said that they were going to be building a soccer-specific stadium of some kind, so good for them. But yeah, I'm not too beat up about it. Maybe we can play them in the Open Cup.
Hey, anything's possible now. They'd have to make it pretty far, though, because next year will be Major League Soccer, so we don't go into the 4th round.
You never know. You never know. Crazier things have happened. So I guess congrats to John Harkes on that new gig. It was announced a few days ago. I thought this was pretty cool as well. Speaking of ticket sales, FC Cincinnati at the time, they had announced that they had already sold or renewed more than half of the current 18,000 season ticket base in 11 days. That is pretty remarkable, and that was probably over a week ago when that was announced. That was on August 12th when they announced started the process for the renewals. So that's pretty cool. I think a lot of people thought, well, once MLS came, that the people wouldn't be buying the tickets, but I think we have shown them that is not going to be the case. So congrats to the ticketing staff for their efforts. I'm sure they're going to continue to work hard to surpass even next year's or this year's season ticket total. All right. I think it's time to call it quits here on episode 130 of CST. As always, we wrap up the show with our final thoughts. So Yosa Sagai, glad to have you back on the show this week. And it was I really like your Achievement Unlocked shirt. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I always like a little Xbox relation, Achievement Unlocked. But yeah, my final thought, I have a quick one and then a large one relating to the tickets. Growler Cup. We actually had somebody predict correctly the Atlanta United result. So shout out to Angela Cardwell. She picked 5-1. And plenty of people replied, there at least no one got that one right. That was pretty impressive. So congrats on your 5 points there.
That's a big jump for her. I mean, nobody had 5 points. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And but yeah, going back to your point about the tickets, I still don't believe it. I was assured by so many fans of opposing clubs, so many doubters of soccer in the city, that this team would never survive and people would stop buying tickets when MLS came. It's amazing to me that the eagerness people had in renewing their tickets. It was almost a point of pride to be a season ticket holder. So I think that's pretty cool. And it's really bodes for an exciting season next year with a higher tier of competition coming up. It's only moving upward and onward from here. So I think it's awesome.
Good stuff, Joseph. As always, do appreciate you being on the show this week. I know how busy you are, so thank you, buddy.
Trying to build a streak just like FCC. So.
Yeah, I like it. Final thoughts from Mr. Razzle Dazzle himself, Boston Brazzle. I did see somebody tweeted over the weekend that they finally they didn't know that you had the Razzle Dazzle or wondered why you had the Razzle Dazzle in your Twitter profile.
Almost identical story, Sue. So you know how like you guys found out my name was actually Brazzle after pronouncing it wrong for about a year at the MLS event. Well, the University of Cincinnati, my co-broadcaster used the wrong name as well all of last year. And maybe it came from hosting as well. However, the guy doing the PA announcing is the same guy that does Nick. He does PA announcing for FC Cincinnati. So when he heard the broadcaster using my incorrect last name, he outed it and had a good time telling him the story from the podcast.
Yeah, that's I'm never going to let it go. I mean, I don't understand why you couldn't just tell me. I mean, I still feel a little broken up about that.
That's what my broadcaster said. I've been saying it on television wrong. And I was like, yeah, well, it just doesn't bother me.
Well, I don't know what bothers me more, the fact that you didn't tell me or the fact that you are always on vacation. I'm kidding, of course. So fill us in. How's the broadcasting going? Where can folks listen?
Broadcasting's going great. The Bearcats, I believe, are 3-1, losing only to Virginia, which is a top 10 ranked team. And so Neil Stafford kind of puts together these tough schedules. They just took out NKU, and they took out Eastern Kentucky University, which is actually a really good women's soccer team. So been a great year. You can follow along on Go Bearcats. Probably easiest, just follow on online. Go back Bearcats TV.
Very cool. Good to have you with us, Boston. Appreciate all that you do.
Oh, I'm just happy you have me on.
And last but not least, Brian Weigel. Brian, your final thoughts as we begin to wrap up?
Hard-hitting thoughts here, Subes.
Okay.
Somebody buy my boy Emery Welshman some Chick-fil-A. That's all I got to say. I'm joking. If anybody goes, they always have their off days on Sundays. He doesn't get to get Chick-fil-A. He was pouting about it, and I felt bad for my boy. So give my guy some Chick-fil-A, and somebody feed the ball to Justin Hoyt, open net, so he can finish and get a goal. Those are like the two things I want in this life right now, is my boy to get Chick-fil-A and Justin Hoyt to get a goal.
He was so close against Atlanta. He was right there.
So close.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and he wants it bad too. I mean, you could tell. It's coming though, Justin. It's coming. So, Bri, appreciate your efforts as always. You're the man.
Come on, pal. Thank you.
And it was a nice, fun. I was honestly expecting a more spirited debate between us, but you turned me. So, good job.
Well, you just be happy I didn't sue you for like workers' comp. Walking around with this gimpy right leg right now. So.
Oh, that's funny. My final thoughts as we begin to wrap up. This just came down to us today. Ballast Point Brewing Company bus trip to Louisville coming up on September 8th. So for those of you who want to go to that stadium and watch that soccer on a baseball diamond, $25 gets you a seat on the bus and refreshments. It does not include your ticket to the match. This is just for your seat on the bus. Ballast Point Brewing Company bus trip. I believe you can get your tickets at Molly Malone's. So if you want to head down to Louisville for that match on September 8th, that is one way to do it. So check it out, Ballast Point Brewing Company putting that together.
I heard that Louisville was not going to sell first row seats to us this year. Truth?
Uh-oh.
Is that legit?
Well, then the second row is the first row. It doesn't really matter, does it?
Oh, yeah. I like your logic, Boston.
Like, is that legit or are you just being funny?
I guess I wasn't being funny.
Well, now that my folks live in Kentucky, I still don't think they'll make the trip.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. That I was like, how many of us are actually going to be making the trip knowing all that crud that happened last year?
I said I would never go back, and I already bought my hotel room, so I lied.
Oh,
Note to self, Boston's words don't matter.
yeah. Can honestly say I've never been to a match in Louisville and don't plan on going anytime soon. So
I really want to go, but I don't know how much, like how tall my honeydew list would be if I even asked that question.
Yeah, it's just yeah. I'd rather watch it on the ESPN Plus with the Louisville announcers. So that's going to be the unfortunate thing. I'm so jealous of you guys. You get to listen to Tommy G and Kevin for every single match. And I get I had the Tampa announcers over the weekend, and they weren't biased at all, So,
They were really good, really good.
Yeah, they weren't biased. Anyway, so go if you want to go to Louisville for that match. Ballast Point Brewing Company putting together a bus trip. Get your tickets at Molly Malone's. Don't forget to rate and review the show on iTunes. You can do that by going to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/iTunes. If you're new to podcasting, you're not sure what it means to subscribe. We are on pretty much every podcasting platform that you can think of. iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, and anywhere you can find podcasts, go get subscribed to CST. That way you don't miss a single episode of our show. If you can't make our live show every Monday night at 9 o'clock, get subscribed so you get the podcast automatically downloaded to your device. A good reason for subscribing is then you get to catch March to Match Day, which Brian puts together each and every week. This week he'll be visiting with Kevin Sparks of Mongols to preview the match with the Riverhounds coming up this weekend. So get subscribed. And last but not least, make sure you go support the show. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support is where you can do just that. My thanks to Rob Pierce for screening our calls tonight, staying up way past his bedtime. Rob, thank you so much for your help this evening. And, of course, my thanks to Boston, Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, Joseph Sagai, and Brian Weigel. I'm Subes reminding you to watch your tackles, and everybody enjoy your Labor Day next week.